You can come right in here.
All right, 6:30. We're good to go. We'll officially call to order the regular meeting of the City Council for the City of Charlestown. It's June 5th, 2023. 6:30 p.m. I don't think we're recording. I think that's recording, but I don't think your sound system's on here. Okay. Thank everybody for coming out for the meeting. We'll begin, as is our custom. If everybody will please stand, we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. The Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I did not have anybody signed up for the invocation, but if someone wants to read one, I will. I'll just read one on there.
You want to lead? Come on.
Okay.
Let's pray. Our gracious Heavenly Father, thank you for this day, for this beautiful weather, and for this town that we live in and love. Lord, watch over us, help us make the right decisions for the right reasons, and have your hand be in all of it. All of this we ask in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Roll call, Bo Bertram.
Here.
Ruthie Jackson.
Great.
Here. BJ Steele.
Here.
Brian Hester.
Here.
And Jimmy Cox.
Barely.
You made it. Mayor Hodges present, as well as Clerk Treasurer Donna Coomer, Council Attorney Michael Gillenwater, and City Attorney Perry McCall. We've been provided a copy of a very short agenda. Would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
I have a motion. Brian Hester, is there a second?
Second.
Oh,
JT.
that was the right. JT Cox makes the second. Are there any questions, additions, or changes?
I mean, we have something we want to talk about, but we don't really need looking. Okay.
You do that.
Yeah, we'll do.
Yeah,
No worries during council stuff.
Okay. Cool. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous. You have your standing business, which includes your approval of your meeting minutes from the May 1st meeting, current claims and payroll allowance docket. Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion made by Brian Hester,
Second.
seconded by BJ Steele. Any edits or questions?
I have a question.
Okay.
There is, in appropriations, accounts payable, there was a $5,000 check wrote out to Breakfast of Brilliance, presenting sponsorship for the Center for Women and Families.
Yes.
And I asked, because I didn't know what it was, so I asked for the invoice, but it looks like the invoice has already been paid. It said emergency pay, so I guess I'm just wondering what that was, or...
So the Center for Women and Families is, of course, the domestic violence and sexual assault liaison for the region, and our community liaison grant position works closely with them, and so the city, on behalf of the community liaison, was the presenting sponsor for that organization, for that breakfast. They gave us a chance to highlight our community liaison program.
And it was $5,000.
Yes, from the grant funds that are available for the grant-funded community liaison position.
So is that something that we could also use for the Safe Haven Baby Box?
No, because that's not directly related to the community liaison position. It has to be.
Could be if she got involved. Well, it could be if she got involved, right?
Well, it's not that simple. It has to be a way that promotes it's for advertising. So there's a budget for the grant for advertising, and so the sponsorship granted advertising rights to the community liaison position, and so that was the link. If she was doing a fundraiser and looking for sponsorships that we could advertise the community liaison position, then
I'm sure
that would
they
work.
will. I'm sure they will.
But it has to have a link to the advertising.
Okay.
What do you mean by advertising?
Well, advertising for the community liaison position that we have. Part of the grant fund goes towards advertising, mailers, newspaper ads, sponsorships to share the advertising. So the city's program through her was top billing on all of their publications that went out for the event. Spreading that the program exists.
Okay.
Advertising that the program exists.
So the center will be advertising the city liaison?
Yes, they advertised the community liaison position for the city, yes.
But that's not what it says in the sponsorship. It just says presenting sponsor, City of Charlestown. It doesn't say anything. And when I looked online, it doesn't say anything about the liaison. It just says City of Charlestown.
They discussed it at the breakfast, and they explained it was City of Charlestown, and they gave us the opportunity to spread the information about our community liaison at the event and through their social media pages.
I just didn't know anything about it. I usually attend things like that. Didn't know anything that the city was sponsoring. I didn't know if anybody else did or not. Okay.
I mean,
Huh?
that's a lot of money.
Was it a table, was it a just?
2 tables, and then the advertising rights.
So I guess the highlight was other cities to go for those grants, I guess, to have that liaison position?
No, the liaison position is a grant-funded position, and the money can only be used in relation to the community liaison program here in the city of Charlestown. So opportunities to partner with other agencies that we utilize frequently through advertising are open for that budget. That was part of the budget that was submitted when we received the grant. Advertising was one of those features.
So when you all send people to the trustee's office, like today, that's part of the advertisement of it, or?
No, that's just the connection to the resources. So advertising is anything that's related to spreading awareness about the program that it exists. So print media, so we run ads sometimes in the newspaper. We send out cards in the mail to let people know that our services are here. This was one of those things where the city as a sponsor was allowed to highlight our community liaison program. And she was present at the event and was able to connect with people there at the center and other supporters of the center to spread the word of what we're doing so that they can help people in the city know that they can come here and receive that help from her.
And she works on Thursdays from 9 to 12?
She takes, yes, she usually is in here about 10, but she also takes calls and emails throughout the week.
Okay, I'm done.
Are there any other questions about the items in the standing business? Hearing nothing more, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous. Public comment, or sign up for public comment? Just the one? Come forward, state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Chuck Deaton, 284 Birch Drive here in Charlestown. I want to hear on behalf of the Little League. For the last several months, probably a little bit over 4 months, we've had an agreement with the schools to obtain some playground equipment, and we've been working closely with a installer as far as getting the equipment out, getting the equipment put back up with Little League, and we were going to acquire it from the schools, bring it over, talk to the Board of Public Works like we're supposed to, and then we're going to put the equipment up with a professional installer. As of today, around, I'm gonna say 4:53 is what time I got the text, that the superintendent of the schools said they wasn't gonna demo the equipment. They were just going to demo the equipment now. And they wasn't sure what changed, but they wanted to let me know. And then around 5:30, I got another text about that someone talked to the mayor's office and the city's liability insurance would not cover it. We have a little over 456 children this year. We have children come in every week, not counting the ones that don't play, not counting cousins, brothers, people from out of town, whatever the case may be. But a lot of children that come to the park, and that's one of the, probably the busiest place in Charlestown from March till about October. Probably the #1 place kids go to, and the #1 place that doesn't have playground equipment. So what we were trying to do was get something in there to where it would help us. And I'm here, we have a meeting tomorrow night with my board and some parents, and I need an explanation to tell them why we can't put it up.
I'm happy to provide that for you, Chuck. And Tony Jackson has a memo as our city's public safety officer and building commissioner for the board to have tomorrow night. He's been working on that today. So basically what happened was at the groundbreaking on Friday, it was brought to my attention that you had reached out to the school to ask if you could have the Jonathan Jennings playground equipment, which is a fantastic idea on the surface. And we have plans in the Parks Master Plan, and we said several times in public meetings and elsewhere that we have the goal of putting a playground at the Little League. That has not changed. We understand the significance of putting a playground and the importance of putting a playground at the Little League. The issue is that those types of things have to be done through the Board of Public Works, as you noted. So I called Jason Whalen and I explained to him, hey, this is a fantastic idea if it can happen, but it needs to come through the Board of Public Works first, because there are liabilities at stake with reusing playground equipment that was previously installed. The school board itself, or school corporation itself, had said that the only way they would consider this was if there was proper indemnification for them, absolving them of any responsibility should a child get hurt on the playground equipment after it was removed and reinstalled. And I said we need to work through the proper legal channels through the city to make that happen. So it raised more questions about what legally that looks like. So we spent Friday afternoon contacting folks. Jason also told me at that time that he did not have the volunteers he needed to disassemble that playground equipment. May I ask who your installer was?
We've contacted a couple out of Louisville, but we haven't got the equipment, so we haven't buckled anybody down. They wanted a date, and we didn't have one. So when I was working with the schools, it was, okay, who was going to be available for what date? And there's several different companies that, talked to one that installed over, I think somewhere off Muhammad Ali Boulevard. I don't know what they were, I'm not sure. I contacted about
So
5 or 6.
You don't remember the names of the
No.
installers?
No, it was back in February, February 14th, after we confirmed that we were getting it.
Okay. So we also contacted the city's installer, which is Bluegrass Parks and Recreation out of Louisville. And they had significant concerns about reinstallation of existing playground equipment. Basically, the equipment has to be, when it's a public park, installed by a certified installer. And I had Tony Jackson call and verify that with the state. And Tony remembers from his time here doing other playgrounds that that is a requirement. One of the issues is that our installer will not install equipment that is not theirs and does not have the manufacturer recommendations attached to the equipment, which the school could not provide. And she said that's the kind of issue we're going to have with any installer that we tried to get to do it. That was just one of the issues we encountered from Friday through today. Still, I hope that we would be able to make this happen for you because it's important. So we sent Tony out to meet with the contracted construction company, Core Construction, on site to look at the equipment to see if it could be removed. Because the superintendent, Mark Lochner, and Core Construction were certainly willing to help us get this stuff and even to potentially store it on site there until such time that it could be transported and put up at Little League if that was possible. When they went to the site, the bolts are bound with 1 yard of concrete. It's not as simple as unbolting this equipment and moving it out. In order to get to the posts, in order to get to the bolts, and we verified that with the company that's doing the excavation. In order to get to that, they would have to drill it out of the concrete. They could not at that time guarantee that the playground equipment would maintain its durability or its integrity if it was reinstalled elsewhere. While he was there, Brian, our media director with Tony, took pictures of the equipment and noted that there were several problems with it already. We have pictures of those to share with the Little League Board as a part of the memo that Tony drafted as well for your meeting tomorrow night. Several of the places are already bending from age and use, and we're extremely worried about the safety of children playing on that equipment that's been damaged, especially if it's moved to another location. So our professional installer said that it's not a good idea. The construction manager said it's not a good idea. The excavator said it's not possible to do safely at all. And when I talked to the city's insurance broker, he said he agreed that this was not a good idea. that the city would not be covered if we move that playground equipment to the new location. That any incidents or accidents that happened on that equipment, since it was not going to be installed, would not be able to be installed by manufacturer's recommendations, and that we could not attest to the deterioration that it experienced, we wouldn't be covered if anything happened to a child. They couldn't guarantee the safety. So from the state to our insurance company for the city, from the construction manager, the excavation team, and then I even got a call from the CFO of the school corporation who said that although they thought on the surface that it might have been a good idea or possible to reuse, that when it reached her, she stopped it because she had also asked if it could be reused there on site at Jonathan Jennings, because the kids are really attached to that playground equipment. And they all told her no as well. And she had significant concerns about the safety of the equipment if it was busted up from the concrete and moved. So those are all the reasons why we're not able to make this particular reuse happen. It's still our intention to work to put a safe new playground at the Little League.
And I understand that, I truly do, and we've talked about it for 3.5 years, and there's a hodgepodge that, quote unquote, there's a hodgepodge of playground equipment. We come up here, I think about six or 8 months back, talked about it.
Yes,
Nothing, we never heard anything else about that, so this was just another resource for us to go and make something better at the park, make it more where whoever's kids or grandkids would like to come up, and they have something to do if they're not playing ball.
I agree.
And the insurance side, I just would like to ask and clarify. We have a lease agreement in place.
Yes,
I provide to Ms. Coomer and the city, an insurance form every year that covers the city. And it says in the lease agreement that while we have the agreement in place, the city will not be held liable for things that happen. So when I talked to our insurance, because that's the text I got, liability insurance wouldn't cover it, so I called our insurance agent, and she said, if it's owned by the Little League, and it's on the property, and you have an agreement or a lease in place, then you are covered 100%. So that's why I was asking, why would the city be worried about the liability when we go up there and play now, but we cover every player and every volunteer that's up there now, and every person.
our city's insurance company broker explained it to me, that it's a dual purpose. The city owns the property, so any structural change that happens to the property, whether that be a new field, a new building that's added, renovations, a new playground added, perhaps a walking trail, anything that might be done to the property has to be approved and come through the Board of Public Works and picked up by our insurance policy too, because if someone is injured, they will not just sue the Little League, they will also sue the city. And in those cases, from their experience, the Little League's insurance would pick up some portion of it, but it would be expected that the city's insurance would also pick up a portion of it. And the Little League is only, your insurance is for Little League activities. It's not for the entire park, and there are other events that could happen at that park. For instance, the Balloon Glow. The Balloon Glow is not a Little League activity. So if someone injured themselves on a playground that was not safe, that had been installed against insurance recommendations from the city, if we were to ignore what our insurance agent and the state and the construction companies and the school board and the park professional installer through Bluegrass Parks and Recreation have told us, and we put that playground equipment up regardless, and someone got hurt, then if we were sued, the insurance provider for the city would not cover us, and then the taxpayers would be on the hook for any damages financial that came from that case. That's the way that it was explained to me.
Okay, is there an idea of a time frame for putting a playground equipment up there?
I would hope that within the next 12 months this will happen. We have our professional installers are coming on site when they bring the other equipment for the playground that's being installed down in Greenway Park. And they're going to spend some time and bring extra crews to be able to go through and inventory all of the playground equipment that is sitting in the huts. Our guys are not professional playground installers, and so they can pull items out and they can say, well, this is obviously a slide, or this is this piece. But when it comes to the platform pieces, those are pieces that are sort of like putting a puzzle together. They go in certain ways in certain places. Our labor crews don't know what those are and don't have the specs on those, but the playground company, the installer, does. So when their team is on site to do that in August, they're going to formally inventory the pieces that we have left. That will give us a better idea of what we can put out, and then be able to design and find the right location of
And we're
them.
talking about used playground equipment.
No, this is
The
brand
used-
new.
The used playground from the Greenway, is that what you're talking about
No, I'm
inspecting?
talking about the inventory that is sitting out at the storage buildings for the city of the unused, never installed playground.
There's equipment over there that's been there for,
Okay,
Yes.
okay. That's the stuff we talked about.
We will not be able to reuse the equipment coming out of Greenway Park for the very same reasons that we are not able to use the
So
Johnson.
say if it come out of the ground, we probably couldn't use it anyway, the way it sounds.
well, I have a question. So I understand that it's JJ and Pleasant Ridge.
Yes, that was the
So
agreement.
does that take Pleasant Ridge because theirs is in dirt? Does that take that off the record or can we still use
As
it?
of right now, it's the playground equipment that needed to come out, immediately, and we talked, and they was going to try to push Thursday. I talked to, Core as well, and, another company, and they said I had about a week and a half, 2 weeks, and that's what we were trying to work through. Getting another company to come in and bust up the concrete and jackhammer around and pick it up, all by the base. That's what the goal was. We knew it would be in two separate, shots, I guess you could say. One would be JJ, we tried to put up, and we would not be able to use them. We had talked to several people. We would not be able to use every single piece, and we knew that going in. But what we could do is kind of build something to where you have something more to do than ride a scooter on blacktop, I guess you'd say. And then at a later date, whenever Pleasant Ridge, they got the school built, and Pleasant Ridge was to close, and they were to make a soccer field or whatever they're gonna make over there, then when that playground equipment come out, we could also do it that way, because it worked out the first time, we'll work it out the second time.
So
That
the
was our
issue,
plan.
so you mentioned that you began having these conversations in February.
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to remind you that this is why it's incredibly important that you keep the city appraised of any changes that you want to make to the property. Because if we had known that this was happening in February, we would have been already ahead of it and been able to have all of this discussed and have understood that it wasn't a possibility for all of these reasons that I've explained. Also, the timeline is so fast to make these things happen. In order for the city to have formally received that property, we would have had to have any possible legal indemnifications in place, and that takes time through the city attorney to make sure that that happens. So I just found out about it on Friday, and you were saying that it had to be removed by this Thursday, but you don't have a professional installer that you can tell me who was ready to do that, or to remove it. The construction companies have said that it's not possible, they were not comfortable doing it. They did finally give us a price and said, if you were to waive all liability and your attorney and your insurance said you could do this, it would be $30,000 for them to remove it for us. But that was moot because nobody was willing to give that permission from the city's agencies.
And has any of this been, has there been conversation about all of this?
The conversation that I had, like I said, I just learned about this on Friday, and I had immediately started chasing it as an opportunity. I talked to Jason Whalen on the board, and then today, as soon as I had this information, and Tony Jackson can confirm because he was involved with all this, as soon as I had the final word and information from Tony, where they said, and the school board, and Laura, the CFO from the school corporation, called me and left me a voicemail and said, this isn't possible.
When was that?
This was this afternoon, about 1:30. I called Jason
Because I
immediately.
talked to him at 3:30 and I said, I just want to know, is this still a go? Can he still pick up the equipment on Thursday? And I was told, it's all still a go, it's all still good. Yes, he has to pick it up on
Who
Thursday.
did you speak to?
Jeremy Sharman?
Okay, I emailed Jeremy after I called Jason Whalen. I didn't email Jeremy, I take that back. I emailed the people I talked to, Bryce, Mark Loeffner, the superintendent, and somebody who works for DCE, Chris, I think is his first name. And I said, thank you, but this has been shut down, it's a no-go.
But did you call them and tell them?
I called Jason Whalen at approximately 2 o'clock as soon as I knew and told him that it was not going to be possible, yes.
So I just have one more question, and this playground equipment now is either here or there, it already been stopped and everything, and I on the record would like to thank Greater Clark for even entertaining the idea, because they done a great job for us. But we didn't have any details until I get a phone call and say, hey, you can take the equipment now, we're ready. And they waited for those days.
I don't think that they were fully ready for that, because again,
They
when the
were.
CFO got the information, she said, absolutely not, we are not comfortable making this transition. We cannot
When
do
she
that.
got the information from you.
But-
No, I did not talk to her, she called me because she got the information, I'm assuming through Mark Laughlin, who I was speaking to. The point is, it's not safe. We owe our kids a safe place to play.
I agree.
And this was not that.
I agree, and I don't think that we would ever put anything up that was unsafe. In the 10 years of doing this, I can tell you that I've never done that. But my last question is, if the Little League acquires anything, are you saying in one of your statements, you said that the city has to approve what we acquire?
If it's a change to the property, I'm not concerned about your equipment, your tractor, the things like that that you have, no, but if it's a change to the property, meaning a structural change, a new building, a playground, change to walking path, like around if we ever pave a path or things like that, yes, those things need to go through the Board of Public Works and be approved and added to our insurance policy as a
That
capital.
was our plan. Our plan was to come to them after we were told we could acquire, but between Friday morning when I received the phone call and this afternoon, there's not been a Board of Public Works meeting.
Right, and so I guess
I
it's
think there's one tomorrow or Wednesday morning.
Wednesday, and it's actually on the agenda, because as soon as I found out about it on Friday and thought that it could be a possibility, I added it to the agenda for the Board of Public Works, because my intention was to request that the board authorize us to move forward with this, because that was led to believe that we had a little more time to get it out, if it was possible. And as we continued the investigation this morning, in all good faith, I wanted this to happen as much as you guys did, because it would have been, if it had worked, a great solution to something that we've collectively been working on with you for a while. Unfortunately, it was shut down for all of the reasons that I've explained.
Hopefully, if we both want the same thing, and we want the same thing for the kids, we can get that equipment that's been sitting for 4 or 5 years and get it installed before 12 months is up.
Well, it's mine, like I said, in
I do
August,
appreciate it.
they will be here to do the full inventory of what's there, and I hope that we can begin to develop a plan from there.
Okay.
Thank you. Moving on through the agenda, we have no legislative advisory comment tonight. I have received applications for the new legislative youth advisor, since our current one is aged out and is graduated or is graduating, and we should have finalization on that. She has accepted. We have a press release coming out about that to introduce her. Her name is Brisadie Marino. So she will be a sophomore at CHS next year. Very, very bright young lady, excellent student. Had superb recommendations
Great
from her advisees. So, yeah, so she'll be joining us in August to be the new legislative youth advisor. That pretty much concludes the discussion of legislative youth advisor, and I had no additional updates. I did send out a memo today for the council for your information regarding sewer. This was a topic that had come up with the sewer board. Sewer board had authorized me to go ahead and send a memo to you to bring you up to date on potential use of bans instead of bond anticipation notes instead of bonds. So I went out to you today for your review. Other than that, I have no comments. Moving on to council comments.
I have a council comment. Recently, a request was made for a public document pertaining to the bidding process on the new wastewater treatment plant by the city council attorney, Mike Gillenwater. The reason behind it was the interest of the council, if there was a decent amount of qualified contractors and interest in the building of the new plant. There was no of interest to us, to the names on this sheet, just a number of how many was interested. The document requested is a part of public record, and we never received it. In light of that, and some very horrible accusations made toward our attorney and about the city council and our intentions of the interest. First, I want to apologize to Mr. Gillenwater. They were defamatory, unethical accusations, questioned his moral and his ethical integrity in front of people here in City Hall. It was wrong. The accusations against the council that we would hurt or impede the process of the bidding process was not only hurtful, but it was totally of no merit whatsoever. We are all longtime residents who have done nothing but support and be in favor of the new sewer plant. We care about the town and its residents. In light of election year, I know that emotions are running very high, but I would hope that we can keep our emotions in check and not make such slanderous accusations in public and keep things a little bit above reproach. We still haven't received the document. The question was answered, we just wanted to know how many there was, but I would like to know, is the document in City Hall? Because at the time, the document was not even in City Hall. And I do sincerely want to apologize to Mr. Gillenwater because things that were said about him were wrong, and he did not deserve that.
I don't know if the clerk's office has received the letter or not.
We still have not received it. So is there a reason why that document isn't in City Hall? Because it's a public document, and it should be,
It should have been transmitted as a part of the amended bid. Mike, do you know why we haven't received that yet?
It's a it's in the.
It's in the amended bid?
In the
Addendum?
addendum that went out.
Yeah.
I assume we're talking about
The list of
the
people who
sign-in
attended?
sheet for the
Yeah.
pre-bid meeting, yeah, it's included in the first addendum that went out.
Can you please make sure that the clerk treasurer's office
Sure.
receives that copy?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, thank you.
Mike, you have anything?
Me?
Mhm.
I just think if it is a public record, you should keep it at the city hall. Otherwise, you're in violation of the Access to Public Records Act. And I know that you used to be an advocate of that act. But no, I have no other comment.
Well, I'd like to comment that I didn't receive any notice whatsoever of this request. And I'm not saying it's anybody's fault, I know, but I am the city attorney. So it'd be nice to be in the loop in some way so I can respond or at least help facilitate the request and expedite that. But I didn't receive any notice of anything regarding the request for a document that is maintained by the city. I've had several open record requests that have been made through the police department, through the city. We've cooperated with those requests in the past without hesitation based upon open door policy. So I would just like to be in the loop. in
Well,
some
I
fashion.
believe it was said that I will call Bo Zeller, who is the sewer attorney. He can call Ryan and Ryan can call Ruthie. And if Ruthie wants it, she can have it. My attorney asking for it is representing us, and our attorney didn't
Right, and I
ask it,
represent the
so-
city, so.
And I understand that, but the
but
attorney for the
but
sewer board is where it came from, and that's where the request was.
But the record, though, is maintained by the city itself and not necessarily the sewer board. The city is the keeper of the records. Any request that's made comes to the official clerk certified, it needs to be certified, that's who certifies documents. So that's, all I'm saying is I didn't know about it, and I would like to have known about it.
So let me shed some light onto this because rumor and innuendo can certainly cause a lot of problems.
Oh, it has.
This was the extent of this conversation prior to what has happened at this open meeting tonight was contained between the clerk treasurer's office, the sewer board attorney, and the council attorney to that point. The reason that there was some hesitancy when the council attorney asked for the document in question was because of the close relationship that the sewer board attorney maintains serving the Jeffersonville Sewer Board in a situation where Jeffersonville Sewer Board members have been at times openly oppositional to the city's receipt of additional funding for our wastewater plant and in doing just general business with the city. So the question was raised of, was there a conflict? And that's what predicated the hesitancy and why I asked if it was a request that came from you. This was not to impugn your character, Mr. Gillenwater. It was simply to make sure that any problems that might exist with your representation of the Jeff Sewer Board and those board members' comments, both to the news media, to engineers, and to me, would be protected and the city was protected. Yes, it's a public document. And I said at the time that we would get it to you or get
To
it
me?
to them. Yes.
I didn't
So-
request it.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I've represented the city of Charlestown almost continuously since the year 2000. I've spent more time and effort in this city than you have, even though you've been full-time. I've been doing it much, much longer. Your response itself is an accusation that I might have sold the city out or sold my client out. That's the type of insinuation or, I don't know what to call it. You have, by your remarks, have indicated that you thought I might sell this city council out. There's been no evidence I've ever done that, or that I wouldn't do that. I can keep things separate. That's kind of beside the point now. It's a public record. I was supposed to ask the custodian of the record for that record. I spoke to my client, asked her if she had it or how many people were there. She didn't know. Called Donna Coomer's office. An hour later, it's DEFCON 5 because some people are accusing me. And why having that pre-bid meeting list would disadvantage the city of Charlestown, I don't know. I really just wanted to know how many people were there. That's all I really wanted to know. The fact that the sewer board attorney advised his client, the sewer board, not to release that document concerns me. That's against the law.
He did not
He
advise
told
that.
me he did, so don't, you can deny it if you want, but I spoke to him because when I have a problem, I go to the person and try to resolve it. I would have called Perry if I thought he'd had the record, but he didn't. Donna Coomer should have had it. And it's not a big deal. It wasn't a big deal until all of these innuendos and suspicions started flying around.
Accusations.
I just wanted to know how many people were at the pre-bid, how many different contractors were at the pre-bid meeting. You know, I didn't want to bring this up tonight, but now that it's up, I want to respond to what you just said, because you've just accused me of not being able to keep my clients separately. And I don't appreciate that.
My concern is always, first and foremost, the city and protecting the city and protecting the sewer board.
But you have to follow the law when you do that.
Yes, and I do.
You're not following the law.
I am very much following the law because the document is public. I had asked the engineers to make sure at our last meeting that that document was given to the clerk treasurer's office. I was told it was in the addendum and therefore public. I assumed that that satisfied the need.
Well, the clerk treasurer couldn't find it. And the attorney told me that the advice that he gave was not to release it to me. Now,
That-
that's what he told
What he
me.
told me.
I know what he told me. I don't care what he told you.
What he told me is that it would be a public document, and as soon as it was made a public document, it would be released.
Yeah.
Or it should be released, and I said, okay. And as far as protecting the city, I stand by that the members of the Jeffersonville Sewer Board have at times been publicly oppositional to our expansion of our wastewater.
Why
plant
is
here
that,
in
Mayor?
Charleston.
Why are they against us?
I don't know.
You
have
do
to
know.
ask them.
You know exactly why they're against it, because we sat in a meeting with you and we saw why they were against you.
I do not know what you're talking about.
You do know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about when you made a deal with Jeffersonville for Charlestown to send their sewers to them and us build a pump station.
Yeah.
And we sat in a meeting, tell me if I'm wrong, BJ, we sat in a meeting with you and they brought it up and you wouldn't comment on it. And it's never came out because it's not good for our city. But you said, I'm not gonna comment on this, I'll refer it to my council and point it to BJ and myself. We knew nothing about this deal. It's when we were trying to get the READY grant, the community, the grant, the overall grant. And I said, Mayor, this is the first I've heard about it, and they can pull the minutes at River Ridge. And I said, we don't have an opinion because we don't know anything about it. And I said, Mayor, what's your opinion on it? And you said, I don't have an opinion on it. And every person in that room, you could hear the air go out of the room because you had made some kind of verbal agreement to send our sewers to Jeff and to build a pump station so we didn't have to build a new sewer plant. And we said in that meeting that we didn't know anything about that and that is not our intentions. Am I wrong, BJ?
No.
Is that exactly how it happened?
I'm happy to
Pretty much.
explain.
Well, you're happy to explain now after you've done run him through for unethical.
I will listen
And
to
you
you
talk
more
about
if you listen to me.
transparency, and then you're at making meetings, and you're making deals that you can't make, and now you want to be transparent. You should have been transparent when it happened, and then not try to run our attorney and us
saying that we might call the developers and the construction people and talk them out of making a bid in Charlestown. That's wrong. We're all on the same page. We all want right for Charlestown. And you making accusations like that is wrong. I don't care what you say or how you sugarcoat it, it's wrong. And we've kept our mouths shut since this happened, and now it's time for it to be said because you keep making accusations about your counsel and our attorney and other people, and it's wrong. You're the reason we don't have a great I know I'm on my fire now. We don't have a great relationship with Jeff, and that's because of you. You're the one that made that agreement, and you keep saying Jeff don't like Charlestown. That's not the case. Jeff don't like being told something and then backed out on.
There was no agreement ever in place.
Then why did every person in that room say there was?
There was no agreement, and nobody in that room would say that there was.
BJ?
The document that you're referring to was a study. The question was asked by engineers at the time when we were looking at how badly the wastewater plant had deteriorated, specifically in the 16 years before I took office in 2020. The question was raised, would it be more economical for the ratepayers of Charlestown to pump our wastewater to the Jeffersonville North plant for treatment, or would it be more economical to build a new wastewater plant? I did not know the answer to that question, so I asked Baker Tilly, our financial advisors, to do a study on which would be the better option. When those conversations were happening in executive session at River Ridge, I invited you and BJ on behalf of the council to attend those meetings so that you could be brought into the conversation once the numbers had been reviewed. I said I was open to entertaining the idea if it would save our ratepayers money. In the end, the financial analysis showed that it would not save our ratepayers money. And in fact, Jeffersonville was expecting the city of Charlestown to not only pay for the wastewater that we sent them, but also to pay their debt service. The three of us in those meetings were on the same page. When you said you were against it, I agreed.
Because you knew you didn't have the votes when you knew we were against it. Trey, but people in that room really thought. River Ridge board members told me, we thought this was a done deal. Jeffersonville sewer people told me, we thought this was a done deal. The people at the Ready Grant told me, they thought this was a done deal. They all thought it was a done deal and you didn't think that?
No,
Okay.
it was never anything that was agreed upon. Anything like that that would have had to have been agreed would have gone through the Board of Public Works at that time because it was before the sewer board was created. The only thing that we did was a pathway of exploration. We do that all the time. We look at opportunities and we say, what is the best for our citizens? What is the best for our taxpayers? What's the best for our ratepayers? A process of inquiry does not imply an agreement. We were in a process of inquiry to find out what the best, most economical option would be. The best, most economical option was not to pump to the city of Jeffersonville, and so we did not do that. There was never an agreement that was made.
And everybody else is telling a different story.
I'm happy to contact, if you'll give me the names of who talked to you, I'm happy to contact them
I'm
and
sure you
clarify. So, who was it from the River Ridge board? Because I'm on that board
I know
and
you
they never indicated that.
Okay.
Matter of fact,
Then
the
I was
board
lied to
members,
by all of
the
them.
board members were not in those meetings. Jerry Acey, the executive director, was, but the board members were not in
No,
those
but they were in
meetings.
the loop, just like you were. That's okay.
And who from the Ready, I can write those down and contact them as well and clarify?
Yeah, I'm sure you will.
No names?
No. You didn't give us a name that day. You didn't give us a heads up that day, did she? Did you know anything about it?
No.
So, all right. Let's just keep from defaming and talking about and saying things about attorneys and council members when it's not merited or needed. We all want what's best for Charlestown. That's why we asked to create the sewer board, and that's why we are on board for this.
Are there any other council comments?
Yep, I do. Subway's moving.
Yes.
They're having a soft opening on the 7th and a grand opening on the 14th. She's been very helpful to the baseball program as far as donating food, so we can support her any way we can, that'd be great. Also, if you wanna see some really good baseball, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, we have a tournament in high school, and it's a prospect tournament where you have a lot of college scouts and a lot of really good baseball players who wanna come out and see a good game.
Thank you.
And we're bringing people in from like South Carolina and Colorado, and we're getting all kinds of exposure to their town, so it's a good event.
The baseball team did really well.
Good
Softball
season.
did well
Softball's
this
had a
year.
really good season.
Track sent a couple kids to the state meet.
Yes, awesome.
I think Jada Holbrook got
7th or 8th.
in the 400. Sorry, I should know this. Jake's
Third.
back,
Just like this.
third and hurdles.
Third and hurdles.
Really good representation, and a couple other like local kids that live in our community. We don't really talk about the kids that go to other schools, but they still live in our town. So James Burnett, first place in the 400 meter for Kentucky. So
Cameron Mitchell was second.
Cameron Mitchell got second.
And then
You're both.
and James also won the state in the four by
Yeah, I think it was
four by
before.
relay. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's did very well.
Very awesome.
Third in long jump, I think, as well. But, and Will Conway, I think he got fourth in Indiana State in the,
Signed with University of Tennessee. Good scholarship.
so there's a lot of very good kids.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
We would like to just open the floor to discussion about establishing new sewer or tap-in fees for our sewer. For our sewers, for new people coming in to tap in. We kind of talked about it with the attorney. I have talked about it with the attorney, and we drew up a few things. A couple of us would like to meet with you and discuss this. We don't want to do any action on it or anything until next month, but we would like to open the door for discussion with the new plant coming in, trying to fund that. We need to update things, and I think our sewer tapping fees are lower than most around here from what I've seen, and we would like to bring it up at least to be in accordance with everybody else.
So you're going to increase the tap-in fees?
And Mike,
Is this the same thing?
Yes.
Yeah, multiple copies.
Mike, if you want to just speak on it a little bit, Mike did a
Since
little
you're-
work.
Has this been, have you discussed this with any of your sewer board members?
Yes. I have had a discussion that we were talking about doing this, but we're wanting to,
That's why we're open the dialogue.
that's why we're opening the dialogue, yes. We just want to open it, and, I mean, it doesn't have to happen at the next meeting. If we still need more dialogue, we just want to open the dialogue for it.
Members of the council and mayor, I want to say a few things, and some of this, most of this you may already know, but since we're broadcasting this, and it may go out to the public, for people who don't know, I'm going to go into a little bit more detail than I otherwise would. When people discuss tap-in fees, that's usually, what that means to them is the cost that they pay in order to have the privilege of hooking into the city's wastewater collection system. A few years ago, you changed from something called a tap-in fee to a capacity fee, because not all connections to the city sewers use the same capacity at your wastewater treatment plant. A lot of people don't realize, the members of the public in general, don't realize that tap-in fees or capacity fees are different than the monthly fees that they have to pay. The monthly fees largely are intended to pay for the operation of the system, the collection and treatment of the wastewater. Capacity fees are to replace your sewer plant or to upgrade your sewer plant when it needs to be upgraded, replaced, as you're doing now. In theory, you collect these capacity fees and you save them until the time that it's necessary to build a new lift station or improve your sewer plant. And so you collect those. Now, it's the case with most city councils, and I'm not pointing to you in particular, but almost all city councils don't like to raise fees because they're considerate of their members that pay their fees. But at the same time, when you come to a point in the road like you are at now, and you have to build a new sewer plant, it would be nice to have millions of dollars that you can draw on to help pay for that plant. sometimes, many times, most of the times, cities, sometimes the sewers dip into those capacity fees in order to operate the plant. And that has happened in the city of Charlestown, not just in the last year or two, but for several years. And that's why you don't have enough to pay for your new sewer plant. Now, your capacity fees currently are $2,100. That is the fee that a single-family residence will pay to hook into the city sewer system. Other users who may use more of the capacity may have to pay more. On the last page, couple pages, is a chart, and it talks about EDUs. That's called equivalent daily units. The state of Indiana, in its experience, has determined that an average residential household will use 3,100 gallons of water, 310 gallons of water a day. And so everything is based on EDUs. That's the equivalent daily unit. Some, like a doctor's office, or a dentist's office, or a drive-in theater, or a car wash, will have different rates, and it's explained on Exhibit A. For instance, I'll just pick one out. For a doctor's office, for doctors and nurses, it's 75 gallons per day per person that works there. So if you've got 10 employees at a doctor's office, you pay a higher capacity fee than if you just got 2 or 3. And the same with mobile home parks, with condominiums, with retail establishments, with warehouses. And so when you look at the chart, it'll show you what kind of the going rate is, and largely that comes from figures that have come from the state of Indiana. Now, there is one thing that I'm suggesting that you consider, that it's not necessarily included here. Some cities and towns charge people outside of the municipal limits more than people who live inside, because sometimes, as in this case, tax monies are being used for the purposes of improving your wastewater treatment plant. The money that you guys have put into that plant already for design and other things for improvements, not all of that was from the sewer department. Some of that came from tax dollars. So the people who live outside of the city who might be using your wastewater treatment system haven't paid their fair share. And now, for instance, in Sellersburg, if you live in town, you pay $3,275 for a capacity fee. If you live out of town, you pay $3,975. And the same with New Albany. There's an additional almost $1,200 for people who live outside of the city. I don't know that you have a lot of people outside the municipal limits that are hooking on or who want to hook on, but you might consider adding that to this ordinance in case you do, because those folks haven't paid quite as much as the people who are paying the city tax rate who live in the city. So I put an arbitrary number in here of $3,100. Now that can go up or it can go down or it can stay there. You will know in a couple of weeks or less than a couple of weeks how much your new wastewater treatment plant is going to cost you. And if you consider that in determining, you ought to consider that in determining what your capacity fee is going to be. Now the town of Sellersburg is expanding their wastewater treatment plant. And it's costing them, and this is a real rough figure, but it's costing them about $16 per gallon to build that plant, or to expand that plant. And a few years ago, 10 years ago, $10 a gallon was a rough figure of what you could expect to pay for a new wastewater treatment plant or an expansion. And we'll see what it is in 2 weeks. I know that Jeffersonville, about a year ago almost, they're paying about $14 a gallon for an expansion of a plant that was designed to be added on to. So the $10 a gallon figure that people used to use is really kind of outdated. And you'll have a better idea again on the 15th when you get your bids for your wastewater treatment plant. And, you know, I'm just giving this to you today so you can read through it. If you got questions, you can give me a call. You can think about this idea about people outside of town. And you can take a look at what it's going to cost you to build that plant. At 310 gallons a day, it'll take about 2,556 residences to use 1 million gallons of capacity. So you can put a lot of residences in, you know, for 1 million gallons of wastewater treatment capacity, you can serve a lot of residences. You're gonna be getting maybe this new distillery out here and maybe some places in River Ridge. And some of those people can generate up to 500,000 million gallons a day in use. And they'll have to pay a much higher capacity fee than a residence will. But at the rate of, you know, at 25.56, if you're paying $10 a gallon for an expansion, it's going to come up to about $3,100. That's why I use that figure. Just as a place to start the conversation. Again, you can raise it, you can lower it. Your sewer board can be consulted. They have an opinion about things, but ultimately, sewer rates are determined by the city council. Any questions about any of that?
Did you talk to our wastewater director at any point about this number?
I did not. I talked to Tony today because part of this ordinance talks about inspection fees, and currently that's $70, and I left that in there. He said he was going to talk to the wastewater director, and you know, I thought that the more important thing to consider is the bids that you get on the 15th. We all hope that they're really low, but with the economy the way it is, with supply chains the way they are, with the inflation the way it is, we just don't know. Engineers find it very difficult to make estimates about what things are going to cost because it's like hitting a moving target. It's just, and I feel badly for them. I don't blame them. I'm glad I don't have to do it because things change on almost a daily basis. Some things are going up, some things are going down, and labor's getting harder to find, you know. So if you've got any questions, council, you can give me a call. Thank you.
Is there anything else that needs to come before the council?
And we do have a special meeting on the 26th, is that correct?
I don't believe that's going to be needed. I think that with the memo I sent out about the potential use of the bond anticipation notes, that if we don't do the SRF, we do not have to enter the SRF for the bonds, then that won't have to happen. I asked the sewer board attorney if that meeting was still going to have to happen, and he said he doesn't believe so. Mr. Gillenwater, he's supposed to be getting in touch with you. They were working on a draft of that potential ordinance, and he wanted adequate time to show it to you. And he felt like the 26th would be rushing that because it's less than a month. So
He and I had lunch last Friday
Okay.
together.
So I don't anticipate that meeting will have to happen. Okay. That way he can have time to review the ordinance. Any other questions?
I just want to say at the high school, the senior class this year, so this group of seniors were freshmen when the COVID kind of shut everything down. They didn't come back after that spring break. So they've had a rough go, but we are at a 98% graduation rate this year, which is actually up 8% over last year. And that's, I think it's a testament to our community. It's a testament to all the schools, K through 12. I'll stack Charlestown schools up against anybody. So kind of finalized graduation is Wednesday night at 7, so we're kind of wrapping up and getting all of our numbers and figuring things out. So it's a number that everybody up there is really proud of and should be, because like I said, this group of seniors have had a interesting 4-year streak, so kudos to them.
Congratulations.
Thank you, JT. Yeah, appreciate you too.
Hearing nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make that motion.
Motion made by JT Powell,
Second.
second by BJ Steele, all in favor?
Getting the
I don't know that there's a plan, I'm not sure. So my dad retired this year. All at Jeff High, 38